I guess I jinxed myself last week when I said I wasn't going to be standing next to this Duramax again, but here it is back in the shop. It's a minor issue that we can take care of. What we originally thought was an exhaust leak actually turned out to be the number 8 injector, leaking from around there to come off the seat a little bit. Let me explain to you what happened. So with our Duramax having that exhaust leak, what we found out is it wasn't actually an exhaust leak. It was coming from our injector. And what was going on is with our fuel injector and the bracket that holds it in place, and this was bolted into aluminum, the combustion pressure was actually so high that it was pushing up on the injector, and some of the threads were pulled in the cylinder head, so that was causing the bracket that's supposed to hold it in place to lift. So the copper washer that was supposed to create the seal, that had lifted up off the seat just enough to release the pressure and create that popping sound that made it actually sound like an exhaust leak. So what we had to do is we needed to install a thread insert. But the problem was this is injector number 8, so it's all the way at the back near the firewall. So there's a whole lot of room back there. But we got everything pulled apart that we needed to actually have access to the hole, which meant we had to take the lower valve cover back off again. And then we had to drill it. Now the problem with drilling it again, being where it was at the firewall, there wasn't a lot of room. So we already knew we were going to have to use an angle drill. That was going to give us a little more clearance to get in there. But we also had to take the steering shaft loose and move it back a little bit to allow access. But the other thing we had to do was with our drill bits. This is a normal size drill bit. I actually had to cut about a little over an inch off of the drill bit to give us even more clearance to get in there. So that's what I did. I got this cut down. We were able to put that into the drill, and it gave us just enough room so that we could drill nice and clean and straight. And then once we did that, tapped it out, put in the thread insert, and then that one is going to correct the problem with this injector. While we were there, though, we decided it would be a smart idea to go ahead and do the other 3 on that side and put thread inserts in all of them, because that's actually going to make it stronger than just the aluminum head threads by themselves. So we don't want to have this problem again. There's a lot of combustion pressure pushing on that injector. So by doing that, again, that whole driver's side, we should never have any more problem with it. Students are here staying a little late, getting the lower and upper valve cover back together and torqued down. And then we're going to get the rest of this put back together to install our injectors. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to share with you how we actually did the drilling. There just wasn't enough room in there with my hands in the way to actually see what was going on. But this should hopefully solve our problem.
It's got a slide lock to pull out on the back side where the wire goes. It'll go right in.
Gonna go over this harness?
No.
Here Eric is taking out the clips and then the guide pins, and then he'll take out the brake pads. That pop was the air pressure pushing out one of the caliper pistons. We'll see which one it was, and then we will take it apart and blow out the second one.
Oh my lordy lord.
We're ready to pull the second piston out. We're going to do that by putting air through the crossover passage. But to keep the piston from flying completely out of it, we're going to take this bar stock, put it in like this, and that's going to hold the piston and keep it from coming all the way out of its bore. That's it. It's on the bar, isn't it? Yeah. Going to take the bar out.
Take the bar.
There you go. Next, he takes out the square coat O-rings, and we'll get ready to clean it off. With the caliper cleaned and sanded, we're masking off the parts we don't want to have paint on them. pulling the rear out of a Suburban, and we need to take the parking brake cable loose from this bracket. So what we're going to do, the 4 fingers need to be collapsed so that they'll fit through the bracket, but we're going to use a hose clamp to collapse those. So this is a pretty neat trick. So let's see if this works. Alright, I took the clamp loose. That's it. This is the broken fastener on our Civic that holds the tensioner on. And here it is with a nut welded to it, making a bolt, so we should be able to turn this out. So I was successful in getting it out, but it did damage the threads in the engine, so we're going to put an insert into that, and we'll show you that next week. We're pulling the engine out of this donor Suburban to put into the black Suburban. Here James is filing the inside of the torque tube down a little bit. It's a little blurry, but it's already looking really good. With the end of the damaged piece filed, so it fixed back onto the torque tube, we now need to get busy straightening out the threads. So we're going to use a thread file. Each one of the sides of this has a different thread pitch on it. So we match the thread pitch and we file those down so that it straightens them out, so that our cap will fit back onto it. So everything is repaired on the torque tube and our locking cap. The threads are repaired and it screws on very nicely. Now the last thing to do is to get this body filler sanded down from those dents that were in it, get it sanded back down like it was and painted, and then we'll be ready to put the driveline in. Next time on Bulldog Builds, with the broken fastener out of the Civic, we'll put in our thread insert, new hardware, and get the tensioner back on. With the brake caliper part on our Z1R, we've got it cleaned up, we'll paint it, put it back together. And with the torque tube piece fixed, we'll put the engine and driveline back into our '48 Chevy frame. See you next week.